Hello again, and welcome to Faith, Family, and Politics. I'm your host, Joshua Cummins. My name will come up on the screen shortly, I think. For you audio listeners, there we go. For you audio listeners, when we're doing video, we have beautiful little graphics that come up sometimes. We have our young Mr. Cameron Reed over there in the producer's booth tonight, taking over for Sterling. So, we can't ask for perfection. But he'll get pretty darn close, right, Lou?
Yes, he would.
and that's our... Yeah, go ahead.
And we're going to have a really big show today, right, Ken?
Yeah. That's our good friend Louis Rodriguez here in studio with us. He's the host of Rodriguez Rants. Hopefully we'll be putting a new episode of that out here very, very soon. And then across from him, there's this person that joins us, part-time. His name's Alan McFarland, and he's the host of The Laughing Libertarian. I hope you love him. No,
you're welcome. No, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thanks for watching and all that good stuff. Make sure, of course, you like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and make sure after this is over, you comment.
And then, yes, all that stuff. Everything Revolver Broadcasting, Laughing Libertarian, all the good stuff. Well, and then also at this table, he has a show on Revolver Broadcasting as well. He's bringing the message this week, Danny Tippett.
Wow, there we go.
Yeah, you get the cheers.
On time. Nailed it. Good job.
Yeah,
It Makes Sense podcast. That's my show. I host that. And usually 90% of the time, maybe more than 90% of the time, it's out on Sunday nights.
That was so much better. I was afraid you were saying more than 90% of the time it actually makes sense.
Well, we hope. That may be raising the bar a little bit. I'm just being honest.
That's fair.
But we try to make sense. How about that?
Yeah.
It tries to make sense, but really it makes sense it's where we talk about how the Christian worldview makes the most sense out of the world and life and the universe and everything. So that's what I talk about on that show, and we're going to do a little bit of that tonight, actually. So
that's going to be awesome, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
I know it was
no problem. There was an opening. I jumped at it.
Yeah, bit short notice, but it was.
My wife almost came in my stead. It would have been a whole nother different kind of atmosphere in here.
Yeah, certainly.
I'm just kidding, Ellen. She wasn't coming.
Oh, okay.
You had him sweating bullets over there.
That sounds written. I know Danny wrote that.
Whole nother topic.
So did I get you the graphic last night? I think I tried to send it to you. I don't know if I sent you the graphic that I made, the thumbnail I made.
No, I don't see it.
Okay, well you get to see the thumbnail right now. Yeah,
let's see it.
Go ahead and yep.
All right.
Yeah,
nice.
And for those audio listeners, the title is "Life Without God
is Absurd."
There you go.
Yeah.
All I saw was "is absurd." I saw the FFP logo, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah. And the tree in the middle. Did you not see the tree?
No.
Was it?
Show him again.
That was a tree.
I saw it, guys.
That's actually a tree out.
There it is.
That's actually a tree in Josh's backyard. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish it was. No, I don't want no trees in my property. Be too close to my house, and yeah.
Don't want anything falling around here.
Exactly. So would you like to pray over the message?
Yeah, let's pray. God, we just thank you for tonight. Thank you for another opportunity to sit and discuss and talk amongst friends, just sharing ideas. But, tonight we're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk about what life would be like if we did not have you. And so just pray for the listeners out there that are going to be hearing what we're talking about and all the banter, but all the questions and just the comments, God. I pray that we're lifting you up tonight. I also pray that as they're listening, that they do really try to give this a good thought, and sort of think outside the box. God, we thank you for this time and this day, and bless all of our family, and bless everybody that we know and that we don't know, God, that we can affect for positive. In Jesus' name, pray, amen.
Amen.
I always feel like he throws a little thing in there about how I'm just going to talk. He's like, "And the banter."
Oh, you thought I was referencing you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
No. That would never.
I thought like 3/4 of that was about me.
No.
Alan, that's called.
I told Josh I was hoping you weren't going to talk at all this.
I was already told.
This time.
That's why I got it all out in the pre-show. By the way, I'm pretty sure Josh's going to chop that up for you guys. So
no, it's all going to be.
There's a lot of it.
So you guys should definitely check out that pre-show. It's it was a little fun.
Only if you're a Rumble user do you get to see that stuff.
Man.
You have to be a Rumble subscriber to watch the pre-show stuff. That's only
go.
for
Good
Rumble.
plug.
Yeah.
Get on Rumble.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just get to see the edited version without Alan in the episode at all on Facebook and YouTube.
It's the Alan Show prior. And with the sidekick, Josh. It's really good.
You know I'm kidding, Alan.
I'm just done talking, guys.
Yes. All right. Well, let's get started.
Yes,
so
sir.
I know
Yeah, this won't last long. You better get started now.
most of you out there are used to like a teaching, and we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to more have a conversational teaching tonight. And so we're going to be, hopefully this guy and all the rest of you will be asking some questions. But I'm sort of going to talk a little bit about this because it's sort of hard to get a good sense of what the title means and how it's hard for us to think about things, like for the word nothing. Like I think I'd asked you the other night, right, on our show, I was like, can you describe what nothing is? And it's in words, it's virtually impossible for a human being to describe really what nothing is. You can't describe it with a color. You can't describe it with anything that's space or matter or time. Like you just can't, because we've never experienced nothing in this world. Never. We've always had space, matter, and time in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. Because you'd have to remove all that in order for us to have no thing. So to describe what life or the world would be like without God, and I'm going to say this largely from a Christian perspective, all right, from a Christian worldview, we can imagine what life would be without God. The point of what I want to talk about tonight is a lot of people say God doesn't exist, okay? Okay, I get that, and I get some of the reasons and the arguments for that, especially like the problem of evil, okay? Those things make sense. I don't think it's a very good argument. I think that actually proves the existence of God. But what are the implications when you actually say God doesn't exist? And so this title is actually from a lecture that I listened to from William Lane Craig. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a huge apologist, philosopher, really good at what he does. And in this lecture, he talks about life from the perspective of if God didn't exist, what would it be? And so we're going to sort of approach that first and sort of make some claims on what life would be without God. But then we're going to look at the reality of it. Like, what is our reality? And if God would be like this without him here, but we live in this reality, what's that implying, or what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a few things. When we think about God not existing, let's go ahead and start with the premise that in a secularist or naturalist worldview, they believe that everything started from basically an accident, okay, right? Something came from nothing, and that nothing blew up into something somehow, some way, but not on purpose, accidentally, completely random, no meaning or value or anything behind that, okay? And then somehow, some way, and I'm going to step away from the impossibility of just that particular event right there, but let's just say it happened somehow, some way, after a bunch of failures. I mean, so many failures that, every single atom in the universe, which is uncountable. You just can't even imagine how many that would be. Somehow, even one coming together would be virtually impossible, but let's just say it did. And then let's just say all the rest of them, and here we are. What is the implication of saying God doesn't exist in an accidental world? And so here's the claim. No meaning, ultimately no meaning, ultimately no value, and ultimately no purpose. And so let's break that down. And this is where I want, guys, even if you know the answer or maybe suspect the answer, ask the question anyway, okay, along those lines. And I want to try to stay on topic because it could get real easy to get into a lot of rabbit trails on this. So what we're saying is if God didn't exist and everything started accidentally, and we want to think about this, right? If there's an accident that happened from a creation of something, somebody accidentally created a robot, they had no purpose in creating it. So that at that moment, that robot has no purpose. It has no reason, no value, no nothing, because it wasn't created for a reason. It wasn't created for value. It wasn't created for anything, okay? So we have human beings, and this is going to get pretty dark. Just so you know, there is a good side to it, but the reason why this is hard to digest, and I think a lot of people don't want to mess with this, is because it can get very dark, very depressing really quick. Mm-hmm. All right, so we die. We're dead. No immortality. No immortality in heaven or in hell, okay? Either way, no immortality. We're dead, we're done, we're gone. There's nothing, right? How do we derive purpose from an accidental universe that was created accidentally without purpose and random? if God doesn't exist, where do we derive? And these are the questions I like to ask people that like to say God doesn't exist. Where do we find our purpose? Where do we find our meaning, and where do we find our value? And I'm not just saying value as human beings. I'm saying value in anything. What is the value of having children? What is the value of bettering ourselves to get the promotion? What is the value in helping the old lady across the street?
Being moral.
Right? What is the value in, and not even just in being moral, but working towards anything, having goals, right? What would be the purpose of us being alive? If we end up dying and there's nothing, and there's a lot of people that do believe they may even believe God exists, because I'm going to say this, we have to have immortality and we have to have God. We can't just have immortality and we can't just have God. There has to be both. So, and then of course God gives us the immortality, so there's that. So what do we do with this? All right, so my first statement is no ultimate meaning. So how can a universe as accidentally made have meaning, value, purpose? Atheism tries to answer these questions, but is left wanting because it is only logical to assume that man being an accidental byproduct. And now you can get these. This isn't just something I'm coming up with. Dawkins, right? Jean-Paul Sartre. Let's see, Bertrand Russell. I mean, these are all famous atheists. Okay, some dead, some alive still. That have said these things. They have literally said that we're just biomechanical machines. We're just byproducts of nature. We're basically orphaned kids is what we are. We have no parent and we have no reason. We have no purpose. We're just these natural accidents that are here that are just living through life. And if you really want to boil it down, we don't even have a reason to live. Like we're just alive. We have no reason to live. You even look at the animal kingdom, and this will get into the second part of this. You get into the animal kingdom, they strive to live. They strive to survive. But there's a difference between us and them. We ask why. Why do we? Why? What is our purpose? Why? Animals don't do that. Everything they get is instinctual and then learned by experience. Okay. Some people will try to use compassion. That's not the separation between it. But compassion is not compassion is not something that is solely only for human beings. Animals can have compassion, but that's not a sign that they're on the same level as we are, because animals don't ask why. They don't care to know their purpose. They live life for survival and to try to continue on, but they don't even try to continue on because, you know what, if I don't have kids, then my legacy's dead. They don't care about legacy. They're living to live, to survive, because they know that breathing is better than not breathing, but they don't even know what it means to be. Consciousness for them is not even a thing. So here we are asking why, and we're trying to seek why, even as atheists are asking why. And so what these people are saying is being an accidental byproduct of nature resulting from matter, time, and chance can only move through life by responding to its environment and adapting by trial and error. There's no reason to do otherwise. This is an atheistic doctrine, more or less. This is a point of view. This is largely accepted in the atheist world. Now, with that statement, we have to look at that. What are those implications? Now, as Christians, okay, and would you say you're agnostic? Is that, okay. So you believe there's something there, you just don't know what, right? Okay. So that's even at least a start. So if we just believe, and as Christians we believe that God does exist, we can simply answer this question. We have the Bible that gives us the explanation for why we believe we're here. We know our purpose is to glorify and worship God, right? And to pass this on that God does exist in the sinful world to people that don't know him. But for the atheist, there's no purpose in this. So why do they live? Why do they continue on? All right. Mankind is doomed. This is where it gets pretty heavy. Mankind is a doomed race in a dying universe. And this universe is dying. We talked about this last time. Energy can't be destroyed, but it can wane. It will lose it will fade out. And it is, right? The universe is cooling. We see that. So we are growing, but slower and slower and slower, expanding. But it's cooling as it does. Energy is losing itself. We're a slowly dying universe, okay? So we're a doomed race. Why do we try so hard? Why are we on this hamster wheel trying so hard if the atheist is correct, right? What if the Big Bang never happened? What would those ramifications be? Well, if the Big Bang never happened, we have no purpose, there's no God, there's no reason. We're just on this hamster wheel. What's the purpose? The Big Bang not happening, it wouldn't matter.
No hamster wheel.
No hamster wheel, right? No hamster wheel, okay? Because man ends in nothing, he ultimately is nothing. That's a tough thing to swallow. Most people don't even want to think that way, right? But also because mere duration of existence does not equal meaning. So that's what they'll say. We'll say, well, there's no meaning in the universe. There's just no meaning, no purpose, no value. But I can create my own meaning. Well, that's delusional. If there is no meaning in the bigger general sense, then on the individual level, we can't create our own meaning. It doesn't make sense, first of all. Second of all, why would we want to create our own meaning, okay? Without God, who says whose values are right and wrong? Now, this is a big one, and this is a big one that I like to ask people because even Sam Harris, who's an atheist, he debated, I think it's God Debate 1. It's a good debate with him and William Lane Craig, or it was either, what's the Indian guy's name? It's God Debate 1 or God Debate 2, I can't remember. But he debates that we get our purpose and our well-being and our meaning from, our meaning and our purpose and our value from well-being, okay? Like the well-being of humankind. Like we do things because of the well-being of humankind. Well, think of obligation. What moral obligation do we have to anybody if God doesn't exist? If God doesn't exist, we are not obligated to be moral to anybody because we really need to consider ourselves and take care of ourselves, right? I mean, if you really want to debase it, do we even want to take care of our kids? Because we just want to make sure we live, but there's really no reason to do that. Go ahead.
Oh, you and I have already went down this rabbit hole, and it was a long, windy rabbit hole, so I'm letting you go.
Okay.
Real quick, Dinesh D'Souza.
Dinesh D'Souza, thank you. Yeah. Was it him and Sam Harris? I think it was.
Hitchens.
Okay. So it was William Lane Craig and Sam Harris. So the question I have about Sam Harris's point is well-being. Well, who defines that? What about Hitler and Mother Teresa? What's the difference between those two? Hitler's well-being was to kill as many Jews as possible because of how he viewed them. That wasn't very good well-being for the Jews, right? Mother Teresa's well-being is to take care of the poor, right? So who gets to define that? In Sam Harris's view, it's well-being, but who's defining well-being? Sam Harris? Or is there an objective statement or definition of what well-being means and why? Well, there can't be an objective because there is no person that's can set that objective standard because now we're giving them too much power. We're giving, like we do with the government, right? When we say to the government, we want you to control every aspect of our life, they become the objective standard. But they're still human beings and they're still corrupt, they're still sinful, they're still evil people. They're still going to do their own selfish decisions for their own agendas.
Like attempt to control every aspect of our lives.
Exactly. So objective is not good when you have corrupt people and everybody is corrupt. Now, if I do want to reference the Bible, that's what it tells us. But if you don't even want to reference the Bible, if everybody wasn't corrupt, let's just say we were all good-natured, would evil exist?
Without God, yes.
But if we're good-natured, let's just say we are good-natured.
I doubt it if we'd be good-natured.
That's what I'm saying. We're not good-natured, right? Go ahead.
It would definitely exist because the ideology of evil is human created, just like words. I mean, you see this in a vacuum all the time. No matter how great people are, even inside of, let's say, a church, there's going to be a belief that even though something that isn't nearly as bad as something else is still considered bad in that vacuum. So, right. At the end of the day, yes, you can say, okay, everyone is good. We're all good-hearted. We all care about each other. Let's say there's 4 people, 4 of us in a small village. This is how we live. Right. We care about each other, we help each other and everything else. Well, one day, maybe one of our idiosyncrasies or something in our personality is a little different than the other, and the other 3 are like, that's a little off, right? Little off isn't that big of a deal. Little off over time, however, in a situation that is clean and happy and everything else, could become to that group of people evil.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because you're doing exactly what I asked the audience not to do at the very beginning. We can't imagine a good-natured human being or human race. We can't. Because you're speaking to a reality that we have now. Because there are people that say God doesn't exist, and they say people are good-natured. But all of us at this table would agree evil exists. So you're speaking to a current reality.
Well, I'm just saying that it's human nature, period. I mean, if you want to remove all of our assets.
So, no, you're right. But that's a reality now. That is human nature. Absolutely correct. And the Bible speaks this truth. That's my point. This is an anti-biblical doctrine. This is not what the Bible says. The Bible tells us we're sinful natured. right? And so people might say, well, how are we sinful natured and how do we ever do good? Because God exists. You're an artwork of God. You're a piece of work from God. You're a piece from work from God. Every artist puts their mark on their artwork. Goodness, or the ability to do good because of free will, is in every one of us. It's not our nature, because we are all sinful because of Adam's sin. Now, I'm speaking from a biblical point of view and Christian point of view. But the reality, what you're speaking to, is real. However, in a different reality where everybody was good-natured, the definition of nature is who you are. It's your being. See, God is good-natured. That's his being. So if you look up the definition of nature, now this is, of course, from human words, right? Let's just say that, but words have meaning. Natured is who you are. We are sinfully natured, okay, according to the Bible. Take that away, right? And you just have a person who says you're good-natured. And this, again, for reality purposes, in another world, another universe, we are good-natured. We have no reason to commit evil. That's not our being. That's not who we are. We do because that is who we are. But we can also do good things because we are created by a good being. Okay, so that's the argument there. If you're actually good-natured, it's really because that, again, that's your being. We're talking about your being. We're not talking about the possibility of something.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, theoretically, the way you're saying this, if it's if you are not human, we're stripping that away and we're all just good-natured people, then we'd all have to be exactly the same, and there'd be no deviation from any of us. We'd be precisely the same people, top to bottom. Otherwise, any deviation from the other people could possibly be perceived as evil or just bad, which is what I'm saying.
Yes. Take away the evil part. We wouldn't even know it.
I think you have something, Lou?
What I was going to say is, without God, how are we going to learn to love? How are we going to learn to get along with each other?
Right.
It's going to be evil.
So you're all making my point. It's illogical. A good-natured human race is pointless. God did not make us. He made us good, but here's the key ingredient. He gave us free will. And so this also flies in the face of God created evil. God did not create evil. He allowed us to have free will, which allows for
we could keep the population down.
That's another podcast show right there, and we could do that a series. But
is that a Bill Gates joke?
Not through their food, just war. Okay.
Okay.
I don't want to poison people unless they're my enemy.
Right. So speaking from that good nature point, you're making all my points. You're saying it's because it doesn't make sense. It's illogical, and we can't even fathom that or imagine that. But we also know that's not the reality. I'll come back to that here in a minute. Sartre says moral values are just byproduct of personal taste or socio-biological evolution. Okay, now remember, this is an atheist that's saying this, right? We're going to talk about, can he actually live that, though? All right. Concept of moral obligation is unintelligible apart from God. We just talked about that. If there's no God, we have no reason to be obligated to doing moral things, right? All choices are determined by conditioning. God doesn't exist. And freedom is really an illusion because we're doing things out of, like for the animal kingdom, they're not really free to do anything. They're doing what they are pretty much programmed, inborn, in their instincts, and then their experiences are guiding them towards. This is how they're going to operate. We can see this throughout all the animals. We can always pretty much, there are always maybe one that does something a little bit different, or maybe there is a microevolution occurrence happening, right? Something's changing, because of the conditions, but that's a response to their conditions.
Yeah, usually it's right. Another survival tactic over time.
So they're just again, survival of the fittest, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So taking all of those things, now we have to look at what is the reality. Okay, so we see evil exists, and this is a huge argument. This is probably the best argument I think that an atheist tries to bring, but again, I believe it truly shows that God does exist. Evil does exist, but we do good things, all right? That's the reality of things. The reality is we believe in meaning and purpose and value, even atheists do, okay? The only people that can truly live without their understanding of right or wrong are people who have mental issues, right? Or psychotics, people that are just psychotically crazy, right? They don't have that idea of being able to understand really right or wrong. They can be told all day long and they can say they understand, but it doesn't comprehend, and that's why they end up killing lots of people or doing crazy things or getting put in mental hospitals, because their concept of reality and being able to process those things is not there. But that's a small percentage of people in the world and in history. So when we look at the reality of things, we're seeing that these things that aren't actually happening. If God doesn't exist, and if they are, then we're sort of just, why are we doing those things?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? Like, if God really doesn't exist, why do we have this? And my argument is these things wouldn't even be. We're talking about an entirely different world that we would live in, where we don't say the words right and wrong, where we don't say the words good and evil, where we don't say any of those, because if God doesn't exist, those things don't matter. There's no standard, because the only way you know something is evil is because you know something is good. The only way you know something is on is because you know something is off. The only way you know something is right is because something else is wrong. These are all standards that are by comparison, right? And so we have to decide, where do those things come from? If God doesn't exist, where all of these atheists are trying to tell us God doesn't exist, and now people that don't, maybe they don't even want to label themselves as atheists, but they'll just say, I don't think God exists. They don't think about these things, because what you're literally doing is, I heard this metaphor, I thought it was pretty good. You have a 2-story house. On the first floor, you have all the atheists, okay? That down there's no hope, no meaning, no value, no purpose, no nothing, okay? And they say there isn't, and so they try to live down there. But then they realize they can't live down there, so they walk up to the second floor where God exists. And on the second floor, you find the hope, you find the meaning, you find the purpose, you find the value. And they steal that, and so they know they can't live that way, but they want to talk like they have to live that way, but they don't expect anybody else around them to live that way, okay? Just the mere conversation of this and saying, just this ability to talk about these things, right? This is one of those why times. Why do we want to say God exists? Because the alternative is terrible. And this is where we can look in history and society. We can look at secular regimes. We can look at people that did not believe in God and how that started to trend them towards murderous acts,
or
torture,
or even those who had many gods, where they were pantheistic about their gods, where they excuse me, where they were pantheistic about their gods, and they had many gods. They had a god for every single individual little thing.
Right.
That God doesn't have anything to do with this God, so they lose their moral ground. They don't have anything to settle on, because there's a singular God for each individual thing in their life.
They're actually making up their gods just to try to appease the things that they're struggling with or thinking about. Yeah. So when we get down to this, I mean, we can look at secularism has risen tremendously in the last 100 years, in the last, say, 200 years, right? And with that, we've also seen, just in the last century, one of the deadliest centuries the world has ever known, okay? And really just in the last, let's see, from 1900 to 2000, we have seen more deaths put together just from these, you look at Hitler, you look at Pol Pot, you look at Stalin, you look at Lenin, you look at, just the communist Mao Zedong, these people that rejected God, said he didn't exist, forced their people to live that way, forced a whole generation that they taught and they grew up, and they killed without remorse. They tortured without remorse. I mean, you listen to some of the science experiments that they did in the Nazi camps, and we're just talking about people that have no concept of what they're doing, or either they're so evil they don't care.
But the U.S. government bought the results to those tests because it actually has pushed our medical fields further.
Some of them, I will say some of them. Couple of stories, and I mean, that's not saying that we're any better in a lot of ways, right? I mean, that's a good point, because we even injected minorities back in the 60s with MK
Ultra. Is that what you're talking about? Acid?
No, he's talking about
infertility drugs. Not infertility, but you know what I'm saying? And they didn't even know it. Like that's just cruel, right? That's just cruel. And so
and studied them under the guise of taking care of them.
Right.
Tuskegee?
Yeah. So that's going to grow, okay? And that's the problem with this idea of God doesn't exist, because eventually somebody buys into this, and we're looking at a completely chaotic, murderous, torturous, non-emotional, just doesn't matter. We're just going to, there's no God to be held accountable to. So I can do whatever I want. It really doesn't matter.
It becomes I am God is what it becomes. I am God. There's no one I need to answer to. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are those alternatives? Without God, there's no hope for man, right? Without God, there's only despair. Without God, right? How do we comfort ourselves? And this is the problem that the atheist has, because we look at the world and though we see a lot of evil, and we see in some ways that evil growing, and we know that it will if we believe in what Revelation tells us. But we also see a growing goodness. We see God's people growing. We see a greater divide. Some people will say, well, Christians are just getting smaller and smaller. Well, I to some degree, I believe we're growing, but the divide is coming greater. And there's becoming a more stark difference. And so you're going to see more of the Christians on the one side and more of the non-Christians on the other side. But as this world continues to become more secular, people are just going to be, well, what do I do? Well, I don't want to believe in God. I don't want to believe He exists. So how do I comfort myself? How do I understand? Why do I have purpose? Why do I have purpose? Suicide is growing at a rate that we've not seen, I would say, probably ever, especially since this pandemic. A lot of hopelessness in these homes. A lot of these kids, the kids suicide rate, the child suicide rate, ideation, all of that, attempts and everything is just growing leaps and bounds. And
so what you're telling me is that atheists need to be stronger than the normal person. Mentally stronger. You don't want to believe in God. You just got to be stronger.
That's that. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Where's that fortitude coming from?
Yeah. So I'll end with this, and then we can move on. The Christian worldview makes the most sense out of this life and universe, right? Biblical Christianity provides two conditions necessary for meaningful, valuable, and purposeful life: God or immortality. I said that earlier, right? Mm-hmm. God provides the immortality. The immortality gives us hope. And the hope is not just to live longer, but to live with God. And then there is also the ability to reject God. And your hope is to not be with God, to be with your buddies in hell partying. Or so you hope, right? But the immortality is there regardless. And the person who put it there was God. And so it depends on what do you think of God? So we'll look from the agnostic standpoint. I'm not going to get deep into this, but the next logical question is, okay, well, if God does exist, which God is it? I'm sure you might have asked yourself or had some conversations about that from time to time.
Really, my whole standpoint is that I believe in God. Mm-hmm. I just don't give, Jesus his props. I don't give him his clout. Right. So,
which I think is still a form of that. I think it's still a form of which God exists. Because if Jesus says he's God, and you know what I mean, and
why do I need to break down which God?
Right.
If there is one God,
you don't have to.
Right, exactly. So that's why I look at everyone's personal beliefs. I just go, I believe in a God. I just need one. That's it. I'm not polytheistic, but it skews a little different from you guys. But that's
yeah. Well,
God said that not to worship any other gods but Him.
Yeah,
that's including God, Jesus.
Yeah,
because that's another image. And you're not supposed to praise on that.
Explain
only
yourself.
God.
Explain yourself.
Because God is a jealous God, and He's the only one that should be worshipped.
So
that's what it says on the Bible.
So you're saying Jesus is not God?
No, I'm saying that He's His Son, but He's not a God that we should worship. We got to worship the God that made Him.
So I would disagree. Maybe that'd be a conversation for later. But
you could disagree or agree, but I agree that Jesus is not the main man. There is God. God made him so He could only come down here and kill our sins. That's what He was made for.
Jesus existed when God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit have always existed. That's eternal.
Yeah.
So Jesus has always been around.
No,
God didn't make him.
He's never been around.
That's not what the Bible. That's not biblical.
He came afterwards.
A conversation for later, for
sure.
It's,
we'll have to work on that one later.
It may be a little bit more circular.
Yeah. So, anyways, Bible affirms that life is ultimately significant. Man has eternal life. This is fulfillment of human existence and what man was made for, eternity with God. Moral values are rooted in nature of God himself. Moral choices have eternal significance. God holds man accountable for them, and man's life has purpose to glorify God and enjoy him forever. So really, honestly, that's the good news. You know, we look at the bad news at the very beginning and all the depression of what that sounds like. And I get that way. Like, I'm talking with somebody, and as soon as they start talking about, well, God doesn't even exist, or their version of what they think God is, and it's not biblical, it's not what the Bible tells us, right? It's not what God's letting us in on. And it's like, I'm so glad I don't think that way. I did used to, but I'm so glad I don't anymore, because that is so, I'm already deal with anxiety and depression. I couldn't imagine living life questioning hope and purpose and meaning and value in my life. That's just not a way that I want to live. I think a lot of people create it and they figure out how to make it day to day to day. Yeah, they do. But ultimately, when you're, on your deathbed, or if you're ever thinking about death, what is there to hope for? If you don't know or have a clue, or if you don't think there is anything after life, what's the point? What's the point of everything all the years prior? What am I here for? So life without God is absurd, in my opinion. There you go. And try to consider that. Somebody tells you God doesn't exist. Well, tell me what life would be like if God didn't exist. I want to know. Let them answer that.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't want to imagine it.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I guess it's just, you wouldn't even have creation, really. So,
but that would be the ultimate beginning.
Like, let's say, oops, something just happened randomly,
yeah.
and then but then you just have automatons, because there's no free will, because it wasn't gifted. It wasn't gifted to the individuals. So then they're not individuals; they're just automatons that are wandering around. And they don't ask why, because they never get consciousness given to them. Yeah, given all over the place. Gifted to them to even think why. Yeah. So then you don't have perspectives. Yeah, you just have.
Have you ever
survival? You just have animals.
You ever talked to somebody that they said that they're like the third child, and their parents are like, maybe even know their parents in your conversation with them, and they're like, yeah, that one was an accident. Yeah. And, to some degree, you can look at that person's life and go, I can see now why they sort of act the way they do, because they sort of have adopted that idea that they are an accident, and they weren't intentionally put here. And that's not true. I mean, I think God controls all those plans, but it's a tough road it's a tough thought to have, especially when you're struggling. God is the only thing that's gotten me through everything I've gotten through and pushes me towards where I want to go. Not the same way I used to push myself.
Yeah.
I have more joy with that. Before I didn't have the joy. Before I wasn't joyful at all. I was doubtful.
I was gonna say, like, the only thing I could think of that would even come close to potentially even answering that question would be like AI, right? Like, because it has no, but it's like it's intelligence or perceived consciousness without purpose.
Yeah.
Or the really cute movie from the 80s called Short Circuit, where Johnny Five comes alive.
Yeah.
But he has humans, or the one lady in particular, to follow around and go, oh, this is how moral. Mm-hmm. This is my moral compass. So
think of AI though. What's the big worry about that right now? That they're going to destroy the human race.
I mean, some AI.
Not all of them, but you think of Terminator, right? And the reason why they're going to destroy the human race is because
how do you eliminate war?
No.
Eliminate the person.
How do you make the world a better place?
Right.
And what do robots do? They look at humans and go, they're terrible to each other.
Yes.
Get rid of them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They're destroying the environment. They're destroying each other.
So they're a perfect example of a place without God, of a mindset where God didn't exist.
Yeah, it's a logical conclusion to think that we shouldn't be here if we're destroying things and destroying each other. Yeah. So where you end up. Mm-hmm. How do we take that into the family?
Or the AI, or the AI just straight up goes, well, they created us. They are by far the best.
we could only hope for that.
Such a small percentage chance.
I'm going to go ahead and
it's like sliding scale. It's like war, destruction of the planet, created us. Okay, we got to pull that back a little bit.
Yeah. What's going to happen when I hit the activating button? I hope they remember I gave them life. But God thinks that way. I'm not God. That doesn't think that way. I'm saying, but God knew I'm going to give them free will. He hit that activated button.
In a sense,
like,
humans do. Destroy God because they stopped believing in Him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually destroying him.
Nietzsche said God is dead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't obviously, but
yeah,
he said that because he's like, in my mind, he's dead, and we have killed him. He had a whole poem about it. The madman, or the mad world. I think it's the madman. Yeah, and he's like, we killed God, because of how we lived. What are we gonna do about it?
Keep it moving. We'll be all right.
Forward, always forward, right? Yeah.
So.
How do we take that into the family portion? Any ideas?
Nothing. I've got nothing for you. You're the leader of this ship.
Hey, I just brought the teaching. I'm just here for that.
I just tried not to insert too many things because I wanted to hear everything you had to say.
Well, I generally wing it, and I usually do really well. I mean, for 60 episodes, I did really well, but now we're at 61, and I'm going, I'm dead in the water.
Well, maybe for a good conversation, Lou, you got kids, right? We all got kids here, right?
I got dogs.
Oh, dogs. Okay, so you got dogs.
Nieces and nephews.
You got nieces and nephews. There we go. Yeah. So you got kids in your life that you can pour into.
Yeah.
So what do you when you have kids? Man, you know what? This is bothering me about kids these days. Like, I'm glad my kid. I feel like my kids are just older than all the craziness that's happening, right? And so I was listening to somebody the other day. They were just giving out stats about kids wanting to kill themselves, kids that were hopeless, and we're talking like 12 years old.
Sorry, this wasn't about kids. It'd be funny.
No,
the Canada thing.
Yeah, there's an ongoing joke. If you go back and watch the episode of A Few Shots, there's a episode Alan and I did called "Oh Canada, You Kill Me," and it was about their voluntary euthanasia program that they have in Canada.
There's a whole bunch of just such and such and such and such, or you can kill yourself.
Yeah. It was just it kept going.
Yeah,
for a while.
Well, I mean, so from a standpoint here, how old are your kids?
They're old.
So they're older. Okay, adults.
The one that just died was 45. So
okay, adults then, right? Okay, mine are teenagers. You've got nieces and nephews probably on the spectrum
range,
of ages, right? And you've got your daughter,
I got a 12-year-old, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, we're sort of all over the place. So, and we have different viewpoints, okay? So, Josh, probably you and I are more online with the Christian viewpoint and the worldview there, but it's still in this world teaching our kids, like, we want to make sure that my kids deal with it and they get the blessing of anxiety and that DNA is almost passed along to them because my son dealt with it at an early age. Praise the Lord that I recognize at my age and I could see it in him, and we've talked about it. So he's done a very good job of learning how to cope with that and have victory over that. But yeah, talking to our kids about when we're presented with this idea, if God doesn't exist, who do they turn to? Well, hopefully we as parents don't fail them. Right? But we're going to. I mean, that's inevitable. We're not perfect, so we're going to fail them. So if we fail them and Uncle John fails them and Aunt, Mary fails them, and then they look to their teacher who they love, but then that teacher, adults after adults, they're always going to fail us. People are always going to fail us. Then where do we find that rock to lean on when we're in our deepest, darkest, most toughest depths of despair? Who do we lean on, And then how do we have victory? I think of somebody in my family right now who has dealt with addictions for a long time, and it's a vicious cycle. He can't get out of it. He just can't. He's up here for a few years, and then he's right back down again, and he's down for a while, and then he's back up again. And I'm just looking at him going like, man, I want you to hear what I'm saying. Like, there is somebody that is always dependable and always there. I know it's not like, physical, like, you're there and you're there and you're there, but he is closer than that even, he's here. Like, how do I express that to my kids? And then they're going to have grandkids. I can't imagine a world that is going to be when they have kids. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I want to sit you all down with your boyfriend and your girlfriend, and then my one that doesn't have anybody.
Did you become Italian there for a second?
What is
it all down?
I'm not very good with accents, but if I did sound Italian, I will take it.
Sit you all down.
I can do redneck real quick, but I cannot do Italian. Italian.
He's going to do the voices for the next Mario Brothers movie.
I thought
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Still closer
Really
to being
bad
Italian than John
Italian.
Leguizamo.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway,
Yes,
So-
definitely a step up from that.
But yeah, I don't, that's something that I'm working through. And not just for my kids, but for my grandkids. I wouldn't want to put my kids in school. I almost wanted to take them out of school.
Yeah, what will the world look like for them tomorrow? Because it's ever changing, and it seems to only ever get worse. And you're like, I got to impart as much moral standard as I can onto this next generation before I get my last breath in.
It really boils down to truth.
Yeah.
Right? Trying to help them understand what's the truth and what's the lies. And, jeez.
so this is funny because, of course, we've already talked about my beliefs. My ex-wife, my daughter's mom, a Christian, and she said, when Riley was little, she was like, hey, I want to put her in this church daycare. Are you cool with that? And I said, absolutely. At very least, I look at religion as a coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. For all human beings, it's I want to live forever. I don't want to die. I do not want to not exist. I want to see my people. I don't want to lose my people. I want to find the people I've lost in my lifetime. Those are normal human, thoughts. So I've never, ever discredited religion of any sort because they all kind of lead to that. So I agreed to it. And so she did it. And I said, hey, it teaches great morals, great values. These are the things that she needs to be a good human being, period. And that's awesome. We jump up and they stop going to church when she's like, 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. Her mom has a much busier schedule, can't make time. I coached her basketball team over the winter at a church.
Yeah.
And
I love the irony there.
yeah, well, that was, you can't find
Take that, Elanus.
Well, so yeah, right. So that the hard part of that was, obviously I wanted to honestly coach anywhere else but a church. I didn't want to coach, but they're so good with community outreach. They're like, here you go. You can't find anywhere else to play basketball. We have a big room that our parishioners paid for. Come on out, pay us and play some ball. But they set the score at 10 for each team. And then every girl had to memorize a little passage.
Right. Yep.
And then if they didn't remember it, you were going to lose points at the beginning.
I remember you telling me that.
Right. And they never actually did that. They never took points away. But of course, they never came in and were like, "Hey,
that makes sense." I mean,
right? A Christian. You imagine the minister's like, "Well, you didn't do your homework about God. We're going to do the Christian thing, and we're going to take 10 points away from you." Right. But we didn't. I didn't want to go into that. My daughter never wanted to memorize the passage. Right. I always sent the passage out the second they sent it to me. I sent it to every parent, hoping that somebody wanted to do it. And we also had 10 minutes of every practice where we had to sit down and actually talk about God. And it was already kind of outlined for us, which was ironic that I'm the person leading that. But hey, it works out great. A lot of it was value based. It wasn't like Jesus.
Right.
It was very much like, these are values. Yeah. Teach these values. Let's ask questions about these values and see how it works through their life. But
I'm sorry, I just got a picture of my head.
Leading in. Oh yeah,
I'm picturing Arnold Schwarzenegger in Kindergarten Cop, and I just see you sitting in front of these kids, and these kids just start asking you these wide-eyed questions.
Oh, I had a couple. Well, one of them, no joke. I had another coach. Another coach was he was fantastic for that, and I actually asked him ahead of time. I said, "Hey, look, I don't really do this. I coach basketball. I know basketball inside and out, X's and O's. We can win games,
right?
But this aspect, I don't know." And he goes, "Don't worry, I got it. I'm on it.
I'm contributing now."
Right? He jumped right in there, and he was handling it. He finished every time, every devotional with a prayer. And so when he was gone the last couple of weeks of the season, he couldn't be there. We go through all this. I think I've done my due diligence. I'm like, all right, let's get back at it. And one little girl goes, but we didn't pray. And I went, well, we're going to do that before the game. So let's go ahead and get up here and let's go do this real quick. And so it was just one of those things. I jokingly said this, but actually did it where I said, okay, well, they're going to take 10 points away if we don't know this. I'm going to blow every team out by 20 or 30 points because if they take 10 points away, I'm going to make them such a solid offensive team that if they uphold this rule,
We're still winning.
we're still winning.
We're still winning.
This is the irony. And my daughter she absolutely hated that aspect of it. And none of my girls, even my most religious and devout girls there with amazing parents, that were very devout, none of them ever remembered it unless we were game 2, unless we were the second game in a doubleheader.
Right.
And then they remembered it because one girl on the other team in game 1 said it. That was the only, I felt so bad. I'm like, oh man, I feel horribly irresponsible right now.
If you ever get in a situation and they say they need to at least have one memorized, just go over that one the whole time. Just keep hammering it so they can memorize it, right? Just Jesus wept,
Oh no, it's a specific one. It's a specific one every week.
That's what I know.
Oh,
That's what I'm saying. But if that's the situation and it's just one, and they just like, we want you to learn, just get them to learn one. Because we noticed in past seasons, they never learn them. Maybe it's just too many. Here's one.
Yeah, there was always one girl on the other team who was like, I've got it. And I'm like, oh, I don't like you. I know that's not nice to say, but you know what? I hope one of these girls puts 20 on your head tonight.
I always loved that in church when they were like, memorize this for next week. And I was like, yeah, I get to memorize it because I knew it meant like candy or some kind of.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fair. See, I was the
like
kid that got
payoff.
I got stuck in Sunday school.
That's what they should have done. It's like you either get candy or you don't, but not take away points.
10 points.
Incentive. Real incentive.
Start everybody with 10. If you don't know it, you lose points. They never did it. But I was always the kid that like the 6 times or 4 times I went to church, I was in Sunday school not knowing anything. So it was amazing.
What's up, Lou? I see your
See the gears turning,
gears
buddy.
are turning. What you got for us?
Yeah. I left a gangster life.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to teach my kids. How to defend yourself. We lived in New York, so New York is rough. I told them, believe in God, but God ain't going to help you down here. You got to help yourself. You got to fight for yourself and defend yourself because God ain't going to be there for you. He might be there for luck if you get away, but he ain't going to protect you from fighting somebody. You're going to have to do it on your own. And that's what I used to teach my kids, how to defend yourself, because in New York, you have rapists, you have gangs all over, you have murderers. You got to deal with that every day in life in New York.
Yeah, it's even worse now.
Yeah, it's even worse now. So, and it was bad then too, but now it's even worse because
they have a revolving door at the jail.
Yeah. But I used to teach them that, and but I also had them all baptized and taught them a little bit about God, and believe in God, but down here, there's no God. There's you and the person that you're going to have to fight and defend yourself. God is up there, and that's where you're going to meet him when you go. But right now, you got to defend yourself down here. And that's what I used to teach them.
Yeah, self-defense is very important. And, and they have to learn that more and more nowadays, especially if they're in a tougher town like New York. And
I taught them self-defense, boxing. I had them going. I had them doing, the military exercises, so they could be stronger than most kids. Because once they start that school in New York, there's a lot of bullies in school. So that's what I used to teach my kids. And
very important.
That's the only thing I knew back then, because that's what I did. I gang bang, and then that's what I knew.
Well, you told them one good thing, for sure. I mean, 2 good things, really. You said God and defend yourself, right? Those are 2 very good things to teach your kids.
That's why now nobody gets over them. They defend themselves. Even the girls. The girls are pretty good. They're good fighters.
Now, you told me the girls are tougher than the boys.
Yeah.
Out of your kids.
They'll gang up on you, believe me.
Better watch out.
They go to the bars. They get into fights and slug it out like men. And I keep telling them, don't do that. Don't go. Oh, yeah. One day somebody's gonna sneak up behind you and stab you. They say, "Don't worry, Dad. We cover each other's back." Those are my kids.
Tough as nails, I bet.
I don't know if that's the right way, but that's the way I was taught, and that's what I learned, and I try to teach them so they could survive.
You can't teach them something you don't know, right? Like I always say, you don't know what you don't know, right? So as long as you're passing skills down and hopefully those skills are being applied properly, then, I mean, hey, it's what you know. It's all you can do. We got to parent with what we have.
And I always taught them not to be bullies. Never be a bully. Let them start the fight, you finish. Because I didn't like bullies myself, you know. I didn't like that, and I didn't want my kids to be like that either.
Yeah, I agree with that. I dealt with a lot of bullying when I was in my 6th and 7th grade year in school.
Me too. 6th grade. Yeah.
I got beat up every day for the color of my skin. It was kind of interesting to go through that every single day.
Do something about that already?
I know. I got to do something about this reverse tan. But yeah, it was just they just decided he's white and let's just beat him up every single day, and it was a terrible experience, and it almost caused me to think very bad things about another race. But my parents said no. Those are those particular kids. They were taught wrong. That's not everyone. It's not a blanket. It's not a blanket thing. And it took me a little bit to come to that conclusion. Even though they taught me right. They taught me correctly. And I'm glad that they did, because, I mean, I would have been a very hateful person because of that situation. So they imparted that wisdom onto me. And so when I got into high school, and I now had knowledge of some martial arts. Alan was there for some of the beginnings of when we started learning Taekwondo when we were small. Yeah. Remember the butterfly that we used to have to do at the beginning of class?
Oh, geez, yeah.
We
benefited. There was an after-school program. It was like $1 a class. It was awesome. Like these guys came in for $1 a class per student.
Like $50 a class now, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a studio where the VFW hall used to be over there, so they're still over there, I think. But yeah, and I learned some boxing from one of my other friends' fathers, because he was a Golden Glove. So so I had learned how to defend myself and defend myself really well. But I chose not only to defend myself, but when I saw it happen to other people, i.e. bullies, like Louis was talking about, I stood in the way a lot.
Yeah,
and got me in some trouble, but I just couldn't stand by and watch it happen, because I had already been through it, and I'm like, okay, this is not gonna keep happening.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you bringing that up, Louis, because bullies, you suck.
Yep, they do. And my son also helped a lot of kids here in Indianapolis from being bullied.
That's good.
They defended them, just like you was doing. And so one good thing came out of them, you know. And I'm glad about that.
Yeah, it's good.
I think you did a good job.
I think they're still alive, except one that he died because of the liquor, but all the other ones are doing good and they're all right.
Yeah.
They're surviving.
You've imparted some knowledge to your daughter here recently, haven't you, Alan?
No, I don't talk to that little girl. She's just like me. I can't talk to her. About what? What are you bringing up? I impart knowledge to that girl every single day.
Oh, yeah. So what was the most recent thing?
I don't know.
How to properly eat candy? I don't know.
What, are we going into something where I need to
no,
come up with? Do I need to fill time? Is this filling time,
yes,
Josh?
Yes.
Jeez.
I actually in early.
I think, yeah.
I always go
Perfect, actually.
We left you 2 hours.
You should be saying yeah.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
So I only promised that I'd be quiet for 30 minutes.
Cam said you were perfect, so I'm going to go with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Cam.
He even
I
gave
appreciate
the
you.
hand sign.
I'm going to
He's
look
like,
right past him
perfect.
That's fair.
to you.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people actually think that Danny and I don't actually get along off camera.
Oh, I'm certain.
I actually have a man crush on Alan, so
So do I. I have a man crush on me.
They do.
I mean, Danny.
That makes sense.
They send heart emojis to each other on the cell phone. And it's
That's
a
how
little strange.
That's how I sidestep Jesus, is having a man crush on myself, Danny. Like, I really believe in myself.
You've been distracting me too lately, so
I'm not making videos anymore. I feel uncomfortable. See, this is what the pre-show actually looks like, guys. So go over to Rumble and check that out.
Yeah. Hey, you got just a little taste, a little
Just a little bit. Just a
snippet of it. Yeah.
Just a little bit there.
That's your freebie.
Yeah.
Now go over to Rumble.
my favorite thing, everyone out there, my favorite thing is when I say something, because I'm like this every episode, right?
Yeah.
Like looking at everybody else. My favorite thing is when I turn around and I see anyone, usually Cam, Sterling, anybody back there, Austin, Ryan, their faces down, bright red. I feel like I'm doing my job.
you are.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah, exactly.
You are.
But oh man, I really wish I could remember what my daughter said to me the other day. I am totally blanking because she decided to stay at her mom's house for a few days this week, spend some quality time with her mom. And she called me and she's like, "Hey Dad, I'm gonna go ahead and stay at Mom's house for the rest of the week. You cool with that?" I was like, "Why do you hate me?" Right? And she went on. She was like, "Do you want a list?" I was like, "You know what? Stay at your mom's house the rest of the week."
Yeah.
That's a good old Alan reply.
Yeah, that kid.
Chip off the old block right there. You
Yeah.
should be proud.
She's something.
Yeah.
She's something special. But no, and that's, a lot of times when I look at a lot of these, like my kid has like the exact same view I have. So I'm really cautious about that, right? Like I don't necessarily want her to think the way I think. Because again, I'm not here to teach her
why.
what to think.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here to teach her
How to think.
say it with us. How to think.
Yeah.
So,
He's just afraid that she's gonna compete against him and be better.
that's actually that's legit. That's the truth right there.
It won't be long before she's dunking on him just
Yeah.
in the basketball court.
Yeah.
She's so tall already.
That was the funniest thing. I took her to training the other day, and the trainer, which I'm super sad he's not going to be back here anymore. He moved down by Louisville. He had her doing some kind. She was guarding a boy that was the same age as her, and when they checked ball and she actually had the ball, she cut right around him. She's way faster than the kid, and so but then she'd get there and she'd like stop, and it's the difference between like the way boys and girls play. Boys typically are way more aggressive.
Yeah.
And they draw fouls a lot more.
Yeah.
Girls don't typically draw as many fouls because they kind of stop. And he's like, and I felt bad because this other boy, he wasn't as athletically inclined. Words are hard, people. And his dad was a like muscled monster. He's like, right. And then the trainer's like, "You're beating him around the corner every single time. Just score on him every single time.
Go up."
I'm looking over like, hey, trainer guy. Not going to say his name. His dad is bigger than both of us. Like, I'm happy.
Stop humiliating.
Yes.
Stop humiliating the boy.
He's just like, you have amazing. What other sports do you play? You have amazing footwork. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my girl. Hey, yeah. You have this amazing wingspan. Just go up on him. You're beating him around the corner every single time. I'm like, just stop that part. Stop that part. Wait till they leave, and then we can talk about the pros here. Yeah. That dude's massive.
Well, that's more proof that she's going to be dunking on you soon.
I know. I definitely know, man. And I don't know. Like, I still kind of wow her with a lot of stuff, but I don't know how much longer that's gonna go. Like,
Well, speaking of people dunking on people, Peter Ducey
boom,
dunked on Karine Jean-Pierre.
That's the segue we were looking for earlier.
So coming from Real Clear Politics this week, we have an article and then 2 short videos that'll come back to back for us.
a 2 short video. We can't play that on your program. I use program.
Depends on the song.
Yes, you did. Congratulations. Welcome to the club. So I know that's painful for you. So yeah, coming from realclearpolitics.com, Karine Jean-Pierre calls Peter Ducey dramatic for asking where she got data that immigration was down 90%. Ooh. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre on Tuesday told Fox News correspondent Peter Ducey to bring down the dramatics after the reporter asked where she got the statistic that illegal migration has fallen by more than 90%. Jean-Pierre clarified that she was talking about the parolee program and not all illegal migrants in general. It's not the way she phrased it.
Man.
And we'll get to see that here shortly. You got something to say real quick?
Oh man, you know how they found out it was down 90%? They checked the population of South America and realized there's nobody there. Right? Like that's what I'm thinking, right? They're like, wow, we did a census and everybody's here.
And that'll lead us to our first video. Go ahead and pull that up if you can, Cam. So this is in El Paso, Texas. All those people. There's what you were talking about, Alan. All the South America, just right there at El Paso.
Hey, yo.
It's like Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras at like 4 a.m.
Looks more like the NRA.
Well, they're waiting for Title 42 to end in a week. It just keeps going.
It'd be amazing if there was an actual COVID outbreak there because of Title 42.
Oh, yeah, then it would just kick right back in.
Yeah.
Well, I guess all you got to do is go down there, Alan. You've had it enough.
It's enough from you.
That right there shows that COVID is a lie. Because those people are all stacked up in one area, and none of them, I bet you, got COVID.
I mean,
none of them.
That's not wrong. That's a very valid point. Thank you, Louis.
I don't know why they don't stop the mass in the hospitals already and stopping people from not wearing them.
Oh yeah. So yeah. People aren't wearing it. There's no masks down there. You can see that. They're all. You're right. They're all bunched up on each other. There's no masks. But also they're all of South America, right, Alan?
Yeah, right.
And so
it's like 15 people walking around like, I got to run all these businesses. Well, there's only
they'll probably wind up with a bodega somewhere, you
Right.
know,
Like
there's candy and
there's only 2 other families I have to do roofs for.
I mean, if you ask Kamala Harris, she'll say, "Well, somebody's got to pick the berries," is what she said. So
That's awful.
Yeah. So I guess there's going to be a whole lot of farms that's going to get a whole lot of berries picked. I guess berry season.
Grapes.
If you're a good
plant
American, you'll go buy
flowers.
all the berries. Make a demand. Great demand.
Somebody's got to pick up the poop from the dogs and the cows and the.
Who was it who made the
horses.
made comment? Who was
That's crappy work, Lou. That's crappy work.
Hey,
I can't remember which celebrity it was that made the maid comment. Like
Made comment.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know,
While you're noodle on
Yeah.
that, we'll watch Karine Jean-Pierre get owned by Peter Ducey
you
real
guys
quick.
work on that. I'll work on finding out who that was, who stepped in it.
somebody got beat up.
President has used the tools that he has in front of him to prepare ahead of Title 42 lifting. As you know, that is happening in the next couple of days. And so we are putting DHS, Department of State, is putting forth processes to deal with the changes that are going to be ahead of us. And so that is what's important here, and that's what you've been seeing for the past several months. You've heard from DHS, you've heard from the State Department on what we're putting in place to deal with the border once Title 42 lifts.
You said yesterday that when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%. Where did that number come from? Because
I was
CBP
speaking.
is telling us the number is.
I hear you. I'm about to answer.
136,000 people more
I'm about to
this
answer
fiscal
you.
year so far.
If the dramatics could come down just a little bit. If the dramatics could come down a little
What's
bit.
dramatic about asking a question about?
Okay, I'm going to answer. So I was speaking to the parolee program. As you know, the president put in place a parolee program to deal with certain countries on ways that we can limit.
Look at
illegal
Peter's face. He's
migration.
just
And we have
stewing.
seen the data has shown us that it has gone down by more than 90%. That was what I was speaking
And
to.
just to
No,
follow up really
we're
quick,
going to
the
go. We're going to
president
move.
talks a lot
Go ahead.
about
Go ahead.
how
Go
much-
ahead. We're moving, Peter.
Because she knows she's going to continue to flounder.
So when
See how-
42 is over, what's going to happen? They all come in?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's pretty much there's no
the
restriction.
border towns are flooded right now.
Yeah, I mean they have there's military down there right now to help to assist, but they don't have any they can't enforce anything, so they're
No, they
basically
can't.
useless.
They
They're
don't
just,
have immigration authority,
yeah
and so they're there for processing.
yeah.
That's all they're there for.
to turn them loose, and then give them a court date and turn them loose, and then when they'll never show up for that court date in like 3 years.
So I want to point something out, because this is what ticks me off about this administration is their willy-nilliness with words. She knows if she throws out 90%, whether or not she meant parolee or not. when she made the statement, it was our immigration has gone down 90%. It was, and I knew this was going to come up because I was like, I listened to it, and the next day I was like, yep, she's going to attribute that to the parolee program. However, it has done nothing for the illegal immigration at all. Like, you can tout the 90% and that's down, and you can hope and pray that the ignorant people out there are going to say, oh, 90% is down. So but regardless if the parolee program's doing whatever it's doing, immigration is growing. Illegal immigration is growing in this country. So don't talk about a program that's not making an impact on the actual problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's what ticks me off, is how they like to take certain words and numbers and things. There was something, and I can't even remember what it was. She said something the other day that was a flat out lie. I mean, just like, we know that's not the truth. Well, she did say, well, we wanted to open schools. We worked to open schools. That was what we were here to do. When, day one, we talked about opening. What in the world? Like, do you not remember that you've been on TV and this has been recorded, and that there is evidence of you saying contrary, absolutely otherwise?
Now, all these people are going to come on in to the United States after 42 is over. So that means we, the taxpayers, have to pay all these people. And where we're going to get all that money to pay all these millions of people that are coming in?
Well,
with the inflation that we're having right now.
Well, they're going to increase the debt ceiling, I'm sure, at some point, because the Republicans will give in, and Biden's going to continue to have a spending spree.
They're just going to be raising our taxes. They're going to get
that's
into
exactly what they want to do.
They're going to get into our Social Security taxes.
Think about this. There's about, I think they say, 5,000 a day coming in right now. They're thinking 13,000 a day when this is lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only ones they catch and count. That's not the ones they don't catch and count. So I worked on the border. I did that job. And I can tell you right now that we caught about, on average, I would say at least in our area, 20% of what we chased. Sometimes we caught 100%, depending, but more often than not, I would say 20 to 30% is what we actually apprehended. Some of those were southbounders, but a lot of those were gotaways. And when they said 10 years ago that we had 12 million illegals in the United States, they're basing it off of expired visas. They're not even basing it off those that cross the border. And then when they do add those numbers in, you can go ahead and triple that number. I promise you that's a much higher, and especially now, we're talking 50, 60 million in my opinion. Now, this is my experienced opinion from working in the Border Patrol. And so I am projecting out, but with the increase that we're seeing now, highest numbers we've ever seen.
Which is insane when you consider we're just slightly over 300 million.
Yeah.
They said over thousands of kids that had come over, and half of them are missing, and they can't find out where they're at.
Well, did you hear that
trafficking?
They're putting them? Yeah, they're sending them out, and I can't remember the government agency that is taking them and sending them to these places, but then they're not tracking them, and they're not where they're supposed to be.
Right.
And I don't even want to get to that kind of conspiracy theory that our government is doing that, but it sure as heck seems like it.
It's the CIA, and they're called lily pads. But I got two solutions. But I want Alan to say what he's going to say first.
I mean, now I've got another solution. But yes. I was just going to say, guys, what do you expect from them? I mean, honestly.
From who? The government?
From the leftists, guys.
Oh.
I mean, they're sterilizing their children. They can't have any more children coming into the next voting cycle, right? So you got to go get kids somewhere else that'll do the things you need done, right? So I mean,
but you know the irony of
voting base shrinks.
But the irony of that is that when Trump was in office, is that, and even now with DeSantis in Florida, more Latinos are voting Republican now, even more African Americans, not more than. Well, the Latino base has definitely grown a lot. Like it's rivaling this comparison between us having more to some degree. Now the African American, the black vote, that one is grown with us, but it's definitely not.
The suburban housewife, this white suburban housewife has shrunk.
No, they said in the last election with DeSantis, it grew.
With DeSantis.
It grew. Now that is DeSantis and everything, but we look at DeSantis as, the poster child for our conservative values and what we're hoping to see happen. I'm not going to get into Trump, DeSantis and stuff, but I mean, that's what I find ironic is the Latino vote is leaning more towards the conservative side now, and I feel like this transgender issue has definitely been bad for them with the Latinos because the Hispanic community is very religious. And this whole idea that, man, woman, man, whatever, it doesn't vibe with them. It really does not. The whole Latinx stuff, that's not coming. It's coming from white leftists. It's not coming from.
Well, most of it's coming from white leftists.
Yeah.
A lot of them are waking up. And also, it's not only Latinos, it's Russians, Chinese, all kinds of different races coming into the United States. Yeah. I remember when I was in New York and I moved over here, I went 5 years later for vacation. Man, it was full of Chinese all over Brooklyn. You never seen them before, only in Chinatown.
Yeah.
When I went back, they were all over. Brooklyn, Manhattan. I said, where did all these people come from?
They run away from communism. But now they're getting upset because they're seeing it start over here. They're like, wait, we got away from all that.
Look, we can get over you bringing COVID, but leave your communism, please.
I got two solutions for this border. Well, we can all become bus drivers. This is my first solution. So, Alan, you can pick them up and take them to Eric Adams.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Danny, you pick them up and take them to Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan.
I'm pretty sure he's not going to kick this.
Eric Adams in New York.
Never mind. I can't say that on the show.
Yeah, you can't say that on here. I'll go ahead and take them to. I'll go out to California. Take them to Gavin Newsom. I'm sure he'll.
Can I make a detour to Martha's Vineyard and drop some off, and then go up?
Certainly,
I definitely want to hit Martha's Vineyard.
Well, and Louis, I'm sure you'd like to go ahead and drop them off in Chicago for Lori Lightfoot.
I'll get my GPS ready.
Yeah, hurry up. She's almost gone.
And then the other solution is maybe we just go ahead and build that big beautiful wall. Yeah.
I told somebody that the other day.
Speaking of, I don't know. There's just no way to segue this, but Hunter Biden's a terrible person. Can we all agree on that?
Yes.
And coming from Red State, this is our second article of the night. Charging.
Speaking of failed things created by Democrats.
Thank you. Charging decision in Hunter Biden case reportedly imminent. Major concerns arise amidst news. Could there finally be a light at the end of the tunnel regarding the federal criminal investigation into Hunter Biden? According to a new report from the Washington Post, left-leaning source, by the way, citing numerous sources, a charging decision is now imminent, and the investigation itself is essentially complete. That news comes after 4 years of rumors and speculation surrounding the probe, including lots of questions about why it has taken this long to near its accumulation. According to the same sources, law enforcement officials have been frustrated by the painfully slow pace of the investigation, taking 4 years to prepare a case involving tax fraud and a cut and dry gun crime charge against a single person is not typical, and it's led many to rightfully speculate that politics has played a role. Oh, really? Played a role in how the situation has been handled. Previously reported meeting between David Weiss, the U.S. attorney handling the case, and Hunter Biden's lawyers was also confirmed to have occurred by the sources. That would have been the last chance of the younger Biden's team to lobby the DOJ, Department of Justice, to not press charges or to lessen those being considered. Those charges include 2 counts of failure to file taxes, a single count of tax evasion, and the count of falsifying a gun purchase form. He threw that in a trash can, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to file taxes on, Ukrainian money, right?
Yeah, that's a loophole. The Post notes that some Hunter Biden allies are suggesting that because he paid back the back taxes, he should be let off the hook. Of course, they would think that. I was looking for there was a part in here about, maybe it's in here. So to not press charges because the money was eventually paid back by wealthy Hollywood lawyer would be the ultimate slap in the face to normal Americans subjected to what is obviously a two-tiered justice system. Where is it at? There's somewhere in this article, and I read it once before, but I'm not finding it right now. But essentially, there's also in this investigation showing ties between him and paying his father. So it's like we could be looking at a potential impeachment if enough things come out in discovery, or from this investigation is going to have discovery. So
let me tell you what's going to go ahead.
No, you go.
No, this is what's going to happen. They're going to, because it's no more has it ever been more obvious that everybody, that all the systems out there, the media and Hollywood and all that are all leftist and owned by the liberals and leftists, right? So just like they have been, they're going to drag this out. They're going to not talk about it. They're going to avoid it. They're going to, and then all of a sudden, they're going to be, wait a second, we're going to have this 80-year-old man in office again, because they're already starting to do it. And you're going to start to hear articles. You're going to start to hear more exposure. And then as this is getting serious, this is going to come out, and the media is going to turn on Joe Biden. Not because they woke up. No. Because they know that he's not going to win, and they don't think he's going to win. And so they're going to put in some, I don't know if this is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that's, sort of pushing it or anything. But he's not going to get back in because they're going to push him out, because the only way they can do that is with all the bad stuff they've been holding back is now going to okay, here's our opportunity to go ahead and get this old man out of office, because we definitely don't want Kamala in there too. So okay. So this guy's gone, and they're going to start to talk about it, and everybody's going to be like, oh, the media woke up. No, they didn't wake up. This is how this is what they did to the Republicans. They pushed the ones that they thought that they wanted to win because they knew they would lose. So we want him to win the primary, and then he's going to lose in the general election. We don't want this guy because that guy actually has a chance of winning. So let's make sure we go for the other guy. I mean, that was blatantly stated, on record. Their PACs gave money to
the big guy.
Yeah.
This story was actually brought to my attention from Louis this week. So I know you had a little bit to stay on it about the charges coming against Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah. Nah, I don't want to say too much about it. I know that he's got to do time. He's got to go to jail. Not only him, his mother. I mean, not his mother. His uncle.
Guilty by association.
His uncle and sister were all making money.
They said 9 of them were.
Yeah.
In the emails, 9 are connected to making money. 9, including Big Daddy.
Yes. And they all need to be caught and put in jail, because they're all in the racket. They're all trying to make money, and they're all robbing us like crazy.
Mm. Yes, Alan.
Once his mom's done serving her time, they just pull her urn out and go, just blow the ashes out of the prison. To your point, I was honestly thinking that because the media is owned by leftists, they're all very, I can't say WAPO is actually I think WAPO is just anti whoever's in charge. I think that about the New York Times as well. I think whoever's in charge, because what makes more money for them, right? Staying one way or just flip-flopping every time someone's in office?
New York Post.
The New York Post, sorry.
New York Post, yeah.
So Washington Post, they've been left-leaning since their inception. Pretty much.
I don't know. A lot of these places are very neutral right now because it pays them better to get
That's
clicks.
What I'm saying. They're acting like they are.
So to go your way, and kind of what I was thinking about there was, it does not benefit them to have anyone in office except Donald Trump. Donald Trump will get them clicks.
I'll agree with that. Yeah. I mean, I will agree with that, but they don't want him in office because of how. So this is why Putin over there didn't do what he did, because Donald Trump is a loose cannon. Like, you don't know what that guy is going to do. And that's why I think a lot of people on the world stage just sort of like, but then there's like people, well, we're just not liked. Who cares if we're not liked? All right. We have exerted our power again to show we are here. Right. And he stood up and said, this is it. And then he starts making peace deals in the Middle East. Like, for a guy who didn't know really foreign policy before he got in, he did a pretty good job, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then he comes out, and then here we go. We've got this Biden guy. I agree with you to a certain point. I think that but the reason why I disagree is because he's not been in office all this time. And even before he decided he was going to run or said he was going to run, they just kept him in the conversation.
Right. So
because he's the poster child.
What I'm saying is polarization pays in media.
Yes.
Right. He is a significantly polarizing person. And if for whatever reason, if 30 seconds goes by and he's not polarizing, he will say something dramatic to make sure that somebody knows. Now, polarization, because honestly, most of their clicks aren't coming from leftists. Most of their clicks are coming from people on the right going, look at this ridiculous thing they said about the thing that we care about. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's just how it is. Because when you see something on, let's say, I'm not saying you're watching Fox News, but let's say you go by Fox News and it's like, oh yeah, that's something I believe. Yeah. Move on. Oh, I believe that. Move on. You don't click on it, right? Yeah. But if it's something that's like infuriating or something, people are more likely to click on it, which means they get paid. And that's why they would push this. Oh, well, hey, look at this decrepit old man. We got to get him out. He's not making us any money.
So here's what I see happening. They're going to do to all of the last election with Congress when we had that, right? So all the Trump-backed people lost. And those were the ones that the Democrats wanted in. Okay, so now this is what they're going to do. They're going to bag on DeSantis big time, and they're going to prop up Trump. And they want Trump to beat DeSantis. They're scared, in my opinion. They're scared of him. They're not scared of Trump because they truly believe that even if Biden was their guy, that Biden could still win. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I tend to think no, but they still think. So they're going to get those clicks, but what they've done is pretty brilliant. They have made Trump the face of the Republican Party, or at least the conservative Republican Party. And that is enough for them to continue to bag on him all the time. Now, I think it will be harder because there's always been looming this potential second term that he would run for. So that would keep him in the picture. They want him to get to the general election, and they want him to be that guy that they can continue to bag on. I don't think they want him to win at all, but, it's one of those things. I think they're going to try to keep him in the conversation, even if he's not there, even if DeSantis is winning.
Talking about Hunter, if he gets away, it's because his father found a corrupted judge, and they're probably going to pay him off so his son could get out.
Or judge
That's the only way they're going to get away with.
Or they don't even need to find a corrupt judge. There's judges out there that would gladly just sort of gloss over this, that they have their own agendas. Now, I agree with you, though.
A minute ago, you brought up Putin, and I'm glad you did, because he's our third and final article of the night.
All right.
What's up?
I was going to say that
you gave a face. So.
Yeah, Hunter Biden's the only time you can ever say, like, man, with all that money, who thought he could just blow through it, right? Like, and mean it two different ways. Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
He blew through it already.
If OJ could get away with murder with the money he had, anybody can.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
The glove didn't fit.
So coming from the 1945 or final article of the night, someone tried to kill Putin. What should Joe Biden do?
I don't. That was a false flag, man.
What did you think when you saw? Because what I first saw was the first headline I saw was Russians said that the Ukrainian government sent a drone to assassinate Putin, and I went, yeah, of course they'd say that, right? You know,
and so it's here. Vladimir Putin reportedly survived an attempt to assassinate him with 2 drones. Putin immediately blamed Ukrainian authorities.
Right.
He deserves no sympathy. After all, he began his failed blitzkrieg with attempts to murder Volodymyr Zelensky and decapitate the Ukrainian leadership. Nor is assassination of the world leaders necessarily illegal. Indeed, it could be moral if targeting the commander-in-chief responsible for aggression could prevent far greater bloodshed. History remembers Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, the Wehrmacht officer who tried to assassinate Adolf Hitler with a suitcase bomb in 1944, as a hero and not a villain. That said, Ukrainian culpability is not clear. Flying drones into the heart of the Kremlin is not easy. At the very least, the attack would signal the greatest failure of Russian air defense West German pilot Matthias Rust landed in his small plane in Red Square in 1987. Whether Ukraine was behind the attack or Putin's own general staff, what is certain is that the perpetrators had inside intelligence. Whomever was behind the drone attack presumably understood both Putin's schedule and where within the Kremlin walls he might be. This fact suggests the purge will soon come soon. Putin, a former intelligence officer himself, understands he has a leak. No Russian general officer or intelligence aide should risk standing by a window above the second floor or anywhere near the top of a flight of stairs. Nor should they drink any tea unless they like the aftertaste of polonium.
He's going to be anxious all the time now.
So did the drone have a bomb, or did the drone have assault weapons from Biden? I don't know.
I like how you added the last part.
So they're saying this drone.
That's a good joke, Lou.
Unless it was launched inside of, Russia, right?
Yeah.
And this drone traveled at least 280 miles, because that's the distance between the Ukrainian border and the Kremlin.
Yeah.
No,
this is an inside job.
Yeah. No,
There's a lot of people.
No,
wanting
sir.
that. Yeah.
No, sir. That drone did not go 280 miles.
No.
Like,
That's
look. They literally just launch it in the backyard of the Kremlin, and then they shoot it down and it goes above, and they're like, aha!
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, either this might have been set up to just for more, or I wouldn't put it past him to setting it up, but also there's a lot of people who want him dead.
Yeah, well, but here's the other thing too. Like, now he's kind of like, let's do nuclear war then. Let's just do it.
No, definitely, it's a false flag. I believe it's a false flag. I believe it is a way to this was an attempted assassination.
Yeah.
World War II started with an assassination. These wars started with an assassination or attempted assassination. Look what they're trying to do to me. He's trying to rally people around. We have to amp it up, and I can't take any risks. So let's get the old rusty tubes up in the air. You know,
he's got to be very suicidal to start using nuclear war. Tell you.
I don't think he's got backing from China yet, 100% either for that.
You got Iran. Iran's definitely going to back him no matter what.
Yeah, but Iran doesn't. Well, I'm not saying they don't have the weapons, because that was supposed to be squashed. But
hey,
new administration.
I mean, George Bush looked under his couch.
They're not there. They're not there.
Idiot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think he's psychotic. I think he's loses his mind. Well, now even more so if this is true. And regardless, I think he's going to be ended up thrown out a window here soon. I don't think he's going to last. I think he's riling up his own people. They don't want this anymore.
Well, it's like Hitler. Hitler, when he was out there doing that, he had his own people trying to assassinate him. So it's possibility that it could happen to Putin. Yeah.
So are you saying that he's putting his foot in his mouth?
He is putting his foot in his mouth.
And with that dad joke, I think it's a good place for us to get some closing prayer.
All right.
Get the heck out of Dodge.
Lord, just thank you for tonight and the conversation. God, I'm just so glad that we don't live in an absurd world, or at least absurd in the sense of, if you didn't exist, what would we be living in right now? But it is pretty absurd to some degree with just the evil and the sin and all of that. But you have provided a way back to you. You have given us a gift, God, that we can accept. And Father, in our faith that we have in you, it's just a beautiful gift that I know that I would rather have that than to have nothing. Father, thank you for giving all of us purpose and all of us meaning and all of us value. And I pray anybody out there that's struggling with any of that, any hopelessness, any depression or anxiety, Father, I pray that you reveal yourself to them. Holy Spirit, speak to their hearts, speak to their minds. I pray that they do sense you and feel you, look to your word to find that purpose and that meaning and that value. We love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
That was the man that brought the message tonight, Brother Danny Tippett.
See you guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
It Makes Sense podcast, Sunday nights, usually.
Yes. We've been trying to get it on time.
Usually. That's a lot my fault.
Well, I can take some blame too. because it's just you and I.
We'll get it there.
Yeah, we'll get it there.
We'll
We'll
get
get it. Well, it's where that we'll get on a schedule,
Yes.
right, Alan?
No.
You know, speaking of people being on a schedule.
Alan refuses schedules. Alan's
schedules.
time. Alan runs on Alan's time.
Yeah,
It's very true.
This is an inside joke that we
very,
all
very true.
all the time.
As soon as I think I'm going to be on time, I'm like,
Yeah.
I might just have to take a break here for a second.
You try to rile him up to get there on time, but he's just not.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening.
It's Alan McFarland, host of The Laughing Libertarian. Oh, I think it still happens, right?
I
Sometime.
don't know. I might want to edit one day. Guys, I hate editing.
Me too.
Like, seriously, I'm just going to go rant for a second. I asked who wants to see a live show, and I think I got, 2 responses? Come on, guys. At least say no. I don't want to edit.
If you're watching right now, when this thing closes out, just go over there and vote. What are you doing with your life?
Right? That's a line I would use. I like it.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life?
And across from him, you know him and you love him, the host of Rodriguez Rants, Louis Rodriguez.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It was
Thank
a
you for
great
joining
show,
us.
Louis. Good job.
Thank you.
And I've been your host, Joshua Cummins. I don't know if you heard here recently, Jerry Springer passed away at age 79. He had no idea that it would be his final thoughts. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Don't forget about Tucker thrown out of the Fox.